Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Cervellon. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
I'm really excited to have my guest on today. Her name is Lila Sullivan, co-founder of Flourish. Lila, tell the audience who you are.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for having me, Jess. So I'm Lila. I'm the co-founder of Flourish Plant. Flourish Plant is a plant care brand for the next generation of houseplant parents. We launched our product 2 years ago. It's an organic houseplant fertilizer made entirely of food waste and designed for people in small spaces. So we launched the product online. We've also had a lot of success in retail and are really excited about our kind of growing retail footprint. So I'm thrilled to chat about the business with you here today.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked because I think that the story of Flourish is really important from coming from like a small business and scaling your company. And I think that that customer journey is very important to like kind of dive into and chat through. I actually want to just kind of start with like, all right, well, we know what the brand is, we know what the brand does, but how did the idea come into play and how did you make that into the fruits of your labor, I guess?
Yeah, of course. Such a good question. So I started this business with one of my childhood best friends, Kate Ferguson, who
Sweet
deserves
person.
more than, just a shout out. I know you guys are buddies too. So Kate and I have been friends since we were kids. We actually bonded over a love of natural sciences. We competed against each other in science fairs when we were growing up. So that's how we're friends. I think fast forward about 10 years and we were both living in small apartments in New York City and we found ourselves really struggling with keeping our plants alive. And when we went to go look for products and resources to help us in our plant care journey, we literally couldn't find anything online. If you went to your local hardware store or you went to Home Depot, you would find the same old competitors, namely Miracle-Gro. And that product just really did not fit our needs.
Yeah.
I think that there is like a place for that product and there's a reason that it's so popular. And that would be because they created the consumer fertilizer industry. But basically, we wanted products and content that could support our plants in thriving. We didn't want to keep killing our plants that we were purchasing. We knew that they deserved better than this kind of synthetic fertilizer. We knew that there was innovation happening in natural and organic agriculture, and we wanted to bring that to the customer, to the consumer, and to other people like us who were struggling with their houseplants. So that's really like where the idea for Flourish was born.
Yeah. So I think what's really amazing about that story in particular is that like it is a very like old and dated industry, right? Like it's like the things that you know about this industry or the products that you use, like you utilize it from your family or your parents or
Passed down knowledge for sure.
Passed down knowledge, exactly. And I think at least for me, I can only really speak in like my story, but like during the pandemic is when I really started getting more plants because it was just like filling my time. I was like, I love this plant, right?
Yes.
But then I don't have one. Is it green thumb?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a green thumb.
Everyone has a green thumb.
Green thumb is learned is what you're trying to tell me.
Yes, you can get there.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's like any hobby, and people love to chat with us about their plants and each specific one that's not doing well. And we are subject matter experts for sure. We can help you with your plants. But I would say overall, like when you think about plant care, you just need to know taking care of plants is a hobby and it's a bunch of learned skills. And so over time, you're going to learn how to take better care of your plants. But often you also do need supplements, nutrition, accessories to do that well.
Yeah.
And so we love helping teach people how to have a green thumb.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, that's exactly my point though, right? Is that I think it is an educational customer journey, right?
Totally.
So I'm curious to know from you, like, all right, coming onto the market, I'm brand new, I have my product, I've done the innovation, I've got it out there. How did you go about acquiring the customer and educating that customer on like why this is the product fit for them?
Great question. So when we started the business, we originally started like many people as a direct-to-consumer business. We launched our own website. We were so proud of it. It really came together perfectly with the help of our designers, as did kind of the whole brand identity around like a better for you, cooler fertilizer, something you wanted to leave out on your shelf. So that was kind of like step one in having a product somebody actually wanted in their home, which definitely differentiates us from our customers, from our competitors, differentiates us from our competitors. But when we think about like, how do we teach people that they need a fertilizer in the first place? I would say there's so many options and opportunities for customer education these days. When we started the business 3 years ago, TikTok wasn't really like an education platform.
Right.
People were doing learning on Instagram, and people were doing learning on on companies' individual websites. So we spent a lot of time building out like educational resources on our website. If you go on there, there's a plant care library where we have dozens of different plants by photo, by name, and you can also filter by like difficulty or light conditions. So you can identify your plant or find a new plant that would be exciting for you. Yeah. And then we also spent a lot of time kind of cultivating a blog as well on our website. I think a lot has changed since then. And those two elements of our website, they still exist. We still update them. They are no longer the most important place for us to provide educational resources for our customers. But early days, that was an awesome spot for us to share education.
Yeah. Well, I think you just described basically the flywheel of it, right? Like I think for up and coming brands, like fun e-commerce brands, it's like going through social, right? Like the paid piece of it, like community building. And then you want to like link them back to the website, and you want to have educational opportunities on your website. And like, honestly, that's actually a part of like brand marketing. Like that piece that you even talked about, the design piece, is so important. Like you don't want to have a text-based site because you have this text-based site and then it's like, where's the excitement? Then your miracle grow again, you know?
Exactly. And I also think that something that we considered heavily when we were launching was, we were a bootstrap business from the beginning, and there was only so much we could do in terms of like paying to acquire customers, and that makes the business really scrappy. And so I'm really proud of that and like those beginnings. And frankly, we've really tried to do all of our marketing growth as organically as possible for 2+ years, even though the business has grown really significantly, because we find that like a dedicated customer is more important than like a single purchase customer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think your business, like without knowing too much, right? And like even for the audience, I think that this business, like the important piece of your customer's journey is that retention piece of it, is that repeat purchaser, right?
Yep.
So we're just kind of riffing. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I'm actually kind of interested and to know like, how do you think of like bundling your products, right?
Yeah.
Like did you start with one, and then like, how did you think about like, oh, well, this one might do well with this and we should bundle this? So
we actually 2 years into this business, we actually still have one core product, and that's our organic plant food. It has changed shape a little bit. The packaging has changed a little, and we're now launching a second size variation that is a fairly significantly different offering. Our single serving packets as an option for purchasing, and that's launching March 1st. So I say that because we actually launched the product as a bundle with a really cute dilution vessel. So you use the fertilizer and you have to dilute it into water, and we would sell this case that has the dilution vessel and the product in it, so that you'd have a really great customer experience with using it. I know the dilution vessel is so cute. We found after we launched with this product that people were actually really interested in just buying the fertilizer. And so we went from this bundle package being our main product that we were selling online, our number one seller, to just the fertilizer being our number one seller. we also started pushing people into a subscription. Pushing people is not the right word. Offering a subscription.
Yeah.
And our subscription offering does very well.
Yeah.
And I would say that, the thing that I'm actually most proud of when it comes to our retention is that we have great customer retention because our product is really effective and it works really well and people see the results. So, is there marketing that you can do around retention? Yes. Are there campaigns that people run and, try to find the ROI in? Yes. But at the end of the day, for us, it actually all comes down to the product.
Yeah.
Is the product working and are people loving it? And that's how we find our loyal and dedicated customers. It's not about the ads we serve them. It's not about the emails we send them. It's about if the product is effective.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's actually a really great point, because you came out with this product, like, let's even circle back. Like, let's circle back to like developing out the products, right? So like, how did you go through like a testing phase to ensure that your product was actually effective?
Yes. So fertilizer is a super unique industry, and there's a lot of reasons why we haven't seen a lot of innovation in this space, actually. It's a heavily regulated space. So in some ways, that's a good thing. And I don't like to like talk down on regulation in any ways because it's supposed to be protecting customers. It's supposed to be protecting the environment. I would say in actuality, regulation of fertilizer it's basically trying to make sure that not too much synthetic fertilizer goes into the groundwater when you're thinking about agriculture.
Yeah.
Our product does not go into groundwater. It goes into houseplants in pots in people's homes, but we're regulated the same way as like Monsanto's fertilizers.
Yeah. Well,
so
they're in somebody's household.
Yes. Yeah. And it is important to have really organic and natural products in your household as well. I think that that's like a separate conversation. But we have like the same regulatory hurdles as agricultural products. And that's why you haven't seen a lot of innovation in fertilizers for home use, because it's honestly just so expensive to bring to market. You have to spend a lot on regulatory costs in each state independently. And then you have to keep up with those licenses and registrations through like a series of, you have to keep up with the licenses and registrations by reporting your sales every month.
Oh, interesting.
To each state by the ton.
Wow.
And obviously we sell a 2-ounce bottle, so our tonnage numbers are pretty low.
Yeah.
But they still need to know like 0.0000 tons. So there's high barriers to entry. So it's hard to bring this product to market. That's like kind of point one. The second, like kind of, there are high barriers to entry in this space.
Right.
And that can be a good thing, but it doesn't mean that there isn't innovation going on the agricultural side of fertilizer and like growing different types of plants. So we leaned really heavily into agricultural innovation to try to find some inspiration for developing this product. And we found so much inspiration for developing all types of plant care products that we're excited to bring to the houseplant market in the near future. This specific product, our 332 NPK all-purpose organic fertilizer, is made of food waste. So we work with some suppliers from the West Coast to collect the discards of industrial fishing from the fish docks of San Francisco. And then we take basically 80% of the fish is typically thrown out after the fillets are taken off of it.
Yeah.
We take that 80% of a fish, we mix it with something called corn steep liquor, which is a discard of organic cornmeal production. It's like a syrup that comes off of cornmeal. And it goes through a digestion process where the natural microbes on the skin of the fish digest those two products in a high speed, high pressure digestion system. And it creates this like incredibly nutrient rich 332, which stands for the percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the product. And microbe-rich formulation. So you are not only feeding your plant, you're feeding the soil with natural microbes. All soil has creepy crawlies in it, just like out in the earth. That's a very important part of soil. It needs to be alive.
Yeah.
So we rejuvenate soil, and it helps create both foliar leaf growth and then also root growth. along with healthy soil health.
Wow. I really need this product because I've killed my Monstera plant and I'm really sad about it.
Okay, Monsteras are actually one of the most fertilizer-loving houseplants.
Yeah. I don't know how I killed this plant, y'all.
fertilizer. I mean, there are a bunch of different ways you can kill a plant. You can not water it enough. You can give it the wrong light. So
yeah, somehow I got those bugs on it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that's a sad death.
I know. It was really sad.
But
I was so sad about it.
We found these suppliers that we work with. We're super proud of our supply chain. And then we also tested the product with our scientific advisor. And that's been a really important part of our process as well, that we feel really good about the scientific underpinnings of how the actual formulation works, so that we can feel confident when we go out and, sell a subscription or sell the product on our website or sell into a retailer and say, we actually know that this is one of the best organic fertilizers on the market. We've tested it against other organic fertilizers. We've tested it against synthetic fertilizers, which typically have much higher growth than organic fertilizers. And ours actually basically keeps up to those synthetic fertilizers in blind studies. So it's an amazing product.
Yeah.
And really kind of what was missing was somebody to bring it to the consumer market, the houseplant market. Which Flourish has done.
Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting though, from an educational perspective of to your customers. And I actually want to dive even further into this, because what I'm interested to know is so you just spend a lot of time educating your customers. You have a digital journey, you have a community online, all of these places, right? But I know that you guys also go out to trade shows often.
Yes.
Do you find those I wouldn't say successful, but do you find them enriching to go and chat with people? Tell me about that journey even.
Yes. So the reason that we go to a lot of trade shows, Kate and I, is because that is where we meet most of our retailers.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the plant space, generally the nursery and garden space, is an industry that is pretty old school.
Yeah.
And so we really needed a place to meet our customers face to face, to talk to them about our product, talk to them about what we were doing. And when I'm saying customers here, I'm talking about retailers specifically. There are 22,500 independent garden stores across the country. That is a huge number of garden stores, but a lot of them are still mom and pop shops with honestly often aging owners who have been really reliant on the same suppliers for a lot of their careers. But all of those stores are seeing a resurgence of interest from young people in purchasing houseplants. So when we launched our business, we thought that most of our customers were going to be online. And what we learned over doing a few select retail placements in our first year of business was that still the majority of houseplant purchasing is happening in stores, because people want to touch and feel and look at the health of a houseplant before they purchase it. And therefore, plant care accessories were really being purchased in store as well. When we kind of had that learning, we decided to start thinking a little bit more about our kind of wholesale strategy. And we decided that independent was the best place for us to start. I think food brands have similar journeys when they launch at first an independent kind of smaller food retailers. But basically, these independent garden centers have become brand advocates for us. And also many of them have huge presence on social media. And they basically become mini influencers for us. So
it's interesting.
They use the product and share the product, and them saying that the product works and that they like it and then recommending it to their customers is the best marketing we could possibly get.
Yeah.
It's like a librarian recommending a book. These are the absolute authorities on plant care. This is who most people are going to get their plant care advice, their local stores, whether it's a plant store, like a houseplant store, or a garden center. So we want those people to be loving our product and sharing it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that you're describing is word of mouth. You have such a strong word of mouth that drives your, not just acquisition of your customer, but also the retention. Once you're once they love it, then they're spreading it around, and I think that's a really amazing place to be. But I think what's key here, like to anybody listening, is that the time spent in the development of the product and ensuring that you can absolutely back your product and say like, no, this is the best on the market because I've done like X amount of things for it, right? It's not just about like a belief system. It's like, I come to the table with my, like the education piece of it.
Yeah. And these are people who like also you cross an independent store owner and you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. The community's tight.
The community is tight. People really care about one-on-one, like personal relationships. We've done a lot of events with our customers as well, which has been really important in our growth as well. But yeah, I would say that if we didn't have the belief in the product, all of these next steps would be nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And we've seen kind of our competitive set or kind of folks we play in the sandbox with struggling at this in this independent garden center market because people they demand authenticity.
Authenticity, exactly. It's like when you talk about like, so going back, like not even just this is like tactical advice, right? For like just brand building, right? Like brand marketing overall is when you bring a product to the market, like you want that authenticity. You want like your customers to believe that like that you have the best product, but you also are like people behind that product, right? So the founder story is really important, but also the social proof and that word of mouth is really important. The other thing I wanted to hit on too that you're doing really well is the community building aspect. You're going out into the community and you're hosting events and you're not only just depending on that word of mouth or those digital channels, but you're actually going out into the community and communicating with your customers and that has such value and from a feedback loop perspective.
Absolutely. I think that I'm not sure that when we started the business, we knew we wanted to develop community from the beginning, but we didn't really know what that was going to look like or how it was going to play out. And at this point, I could not be more proud of what our community looks like and who our community partners are, because, we're not necessarily trying to build something completely new, completely from scratch. We're trying to support communities that already exist, be inclusive and invite new people into those communities. So new customers into these stores, new folks who haven't had success with plants before, getting them excited about their plants, showing them what success looks like and how great it feels. But that's not the same as like building from scratch. And I think when we started the business, the products business, there was a lot of hype around like Web3 communities, developing your community on social media and what that looks like. And honestly, like that's not where we found our community.
Yeah.
I am really proud of our Instagram feed and I love making TikToks. It's fun, but those people aren't our core community. Our core community exists in person and we meet them at events and we meet them in our stores and we connect with them through our retailers.
Yeah. So I think I feel like I'm like so mesmerized by this, but
you're so sweet.
But I think that like what's so important in the storyline is to understand your ideal customer profile.
Yes.
Like absolutely. Because it's like, okay, we talk a lot about like these digital experiences and these digital products, right? And a lot of these people are, on TikTok or all these other places and they're creating like customer personas based off of like information you have from a digital experience. But you have like the very old school version of it, of developing your ICP from like literally out in the market and doing the things, right? But I am curious, right? So as you did come onto the market, and let's just talk about like customer service, right?
Yes.
Social aspects, like all of that, like, if it's just you and Kate like running the show, like who's answering those customer service tickets? That's first question. Then I got a second. Second question on that though, how did you guys develop like a feedback loop? Like as just like new brand founders, like how did you like get information and then like kind of feedback loop it into the company?
Yeah, it's interesting because I wish I could sound a little bit more sophisticated in my answer, but Kate and I are childhood best friends. Sometimes we feel like sisters. Like we sat next to each other every day that we've built this business and said, I just got this email. This is what it said. I just got that email. Somebody just replied to us on Instagram. And we looked at and listened to every piece of feedback. We just made a big change to our product. We launched the product initially with droppers in our bottles because of the consistency of the product and because of user experience. We learned that those droppers either did not always work properly or customers were not using them correctly. That's actually feedback that we found just from photos of people using the product. We were like, oh no, there's not enough. They're not mixing it dark enough. There's not enough product in that dilution. And so we decided to change the packaging. We decided to make a cap top that you measure into, and that's launching March 1st. So I would say that it's kind of, I would say the way that we integrate feedback is just by being really close to the customer and really close to the product because we do it all. Now, as we just made our first hire, which is exciting,
bring that up.
But as we continue to grow, I definitely think there's a lot of space for us to get more sophisticated. I think that like so much of the authenticity of the brand has actually just come from the fact that we're so close to it. And that we have had our hands in every single piece of the development of the product.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's like, but I wouldn't say like, I don't know, like I'm not a part of your business, right?
Yeah.
But like, but I think that it's really interesting at being a brand founder and in that founder mode, being very close to your customers' feedback, your product feedback, like the development of it and all these things. And that's all a piece of like feedback looping it in, right?
But you can't take every piece of feedback to heart.
No, you can't. You can't because this is going to be very controversial. But I don't think the customer's always right.
I don't think the customer always knows or understands as much as you do about your product.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a really fine line to walk because if they're the one purchasing it and they're the one
piss them off.
Spending their money, you definitely don't want to piss them off. There's like a delicate way in which you have those conversations. But when people tell us that, their plants died because they used our product, which has actually, we've only gotten like 1 or 2 reviews that say that. Mm-hmm. I mean, your plants just died. You did something to kill your plant.
You might have had a bug.
It wasn't the product. I promise you.
Yeah.
If we had a mass contamination issue or something like that, I would be the first one to take responsibility for that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, also, like our customers have like living, breathing plants at home and that they're not always going to succeed. So there's actually a really interesting kind of conversation that we have to have with just using Flourish on your plants and then putting your plant in a closet and not watering it again. Like it's still going to die. Like this is not a magic formula. This is a nutrient for your food that in conjunction with proper care will lead to great success.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, education, right? Like I think that's the really important piece of Flourish's brand journey is and in brand marketing is the educational piece in your customer journey.
Yes.
And I think that's like where the success is.
Yeah. And I would say that like when we're on social these days, about 1/3 of our content is educational. Mm-hmm. And same with our TikTok. We love doing educational content. It actually is content that performs best. So when we look at like how all of our socials are performing, education content performs best by far compared with the outside of like founder content, which we actually just don't do that much of. So I don't know. I guess people like to see us, but
I think it's hard. I think each audience is really different. I think the founder story is like really important for some audiences. And I think it's not, I don't want to say it's unimportant, but sometimes with other audiences, it might not resonate.
I think I had a really interesting conversation with someone yesterday actually about the difference between an origin story and a founder story. So like our origin story is that those science fair days where Kate was kicking my butt, up and down the coast of Connecticut in science fairs. But that's not what makes us experts in this space. So, the founder's story now, who the business is now, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Our origin story is cute, but it doesn't make our product effective.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's valuable. I think, again, I really just think it varies by audience. I think it's valuable depending on what it is that you're selling, what you're putting out there, right? So I do think it's valuable, but I think that it's not always like that should be your only marketing plan, right? Like in your case, it's education for the customer.
And I think that authenticity often gets confused with having a brand that has a face.
Yeah.
So we've really like strive to be a faceless brand in that, our friends and our Austin community and the startup community might know Kate and I as the founders of Flourish, and they might connect those two things. But our customers don't need to know Kate and I as the founders of Flourish. They need to know that Flourish stands for all the promises that we're making, and that we are dedicated to sustainability, and that we are dedicated to helping your plants flourish. And all of the messaging needs to be really consistent around that. The messaging around our love of beauty in your space is consistent in packaging and then in the results from your product. That kind of authenticity, and our authenticity in building community and connecting with our communities doesn't mean that our face needs to be on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to be on the back of the package to be like,
I mean,
hey.
I love it. I'm not going to say that I love it when people do that. Like, I think it's really awesome because many times those stories are well connected.
Yeah.
But, that's not always a scalable experience.
Right. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. It's not always scalable. I actually, I do like some fractional like freelance work. Like this is just like a hot take moment, right?
Yeah.
I do some fractional freelance work, and there's like this brand that I'm working with, right? Where like the founder story was so important in the beginning, but now it's stopped resonating.
Yeah.
It's not pushing the sale anymore.
Right. Right. It's a part of your history.
Right.
Instead of a part of where your brand is now.
Right.
What you're doing now.
Right.
And maybe who your customer has evolved to be. We were just talking before about like, who is your customer? Well, our customer has evolved over time.
Right.
Our understanding of who our customer is has evolved over time. When we launched the business, we thought our customer was going to be really similar to who Kate and I were.
Yeah.
That's not actually the case. That's not what we have found as much. And that's really cool. So like, how do we serve that customer well?
Yeah. I think that's a whole other subject. And like, I just want to say one point, only because we're running out of time, but like, I think you're absolutely right. And I think what you hit on specifically as we talk about customers and their journeys and all these things, your customer is going to change over time. Whether you are a candy company or a laptop, right? Like, I don't know, I'm just looking at the laptop over there. But like your customer changes over time because demographics change over time, like things that affect people in society, inflation, like all these things.
I was going to say that a lot has changed in our world in the last 2 years since our product launched. And I think that has a lot to do with how our vision of our customer has changed. The people who we thought were going to be buying our product are a lot tighter on cash than they were 2 years ago. This kind of like 20-something gang of folks. That original e-commerce target, which was like a young woman, high income earner in the city, or in any city. That person, like, that can't be the only person social media is targeting.
Right.
And they can't buy everything.
Right.
So being open to your customer changing and what that means for your brand as a whole has proven to be really valuable.
Absolutely.
But it's like an ego check.
But our customer, when we first started there for a candy company, right, was one thing, and that morphed into something else like 2 years down the line. Like every company, everything is going to change.
Changes.
And I think you just have to be, it's not just about startups, it's even people who are like been on the market forever, like a Cisco, right? You have to be able to like pivot and understand.
It also creates opportunity for customer to change. And I think that the opportunity for Flourish to come onto the market was because the legacy brands were not servicing this space.
Yeah.
They weren't providing organic and better for you products for people in small spaces. There were organic and better for you products for your lawn and for your outdoor garden. And I love some of those products. I am friends with the founders of them now and the teams, and I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to bring a stinky fish fertilizer into my home, period. End of sentence. I'm also not going to bring a synthetic fertilizer into my home, ever.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for me. It's dangerous for my dog. It's dangerous for the environment. There's a million reasons. I'm not going to do that. So, there was a huge gap in the market. And now that customer demographics and people's ability to have purchasing power has even changed in the past few years, there's going to be new blind spots of existing brands and even startups. I think that there's a lot of opportunity right now to meet customers where they are and bring a product that they're actually looking for to market.
Yeah.
That legacy brands are completely missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to do a couple of minutes of hot takes.
Okay.
And
I love hot
then
takes.
and I'm actually interested. We have a long list of hot takes here, but I actually have only time for a couple, and I want to know, what's the weirdest plant community you found yourself in?
This might not come as a surprise, but there are a lot of people who talk to us, want to talk to us a lot about growing weed.
I can see that.
And I have no problem with folks growing their own weed and the likes. It's not really a category I'm personally interested in.
Yeah.
So I'm always feeling a little bit out of my element there.
Yeah.
There are also, actually in Austin specifically, a lot of carnivorous plant growers. So plants that eat insects and meat.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And that really freaks me out a little bit.
The meat?
They feed them things.
What?
So we've come across those kind of groups. That's been kind of interesting, but plants in general is an amazing, really brings people together.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of tight communities around plants and growing plants and houseplants. And that's been part of the joy of entering this space. I was not in the plant care space before Flourish. And I love seeing the kind of community that just community of folks, like-minded folks who love something and love cultivating growth together. It's been mostly really a pleasure to get to meet those folks.
Yeah. Okay. How fun and interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can get you a carnivorous plant if you want one.
I'm helping you get back to Chicago. Okay. This one's for just Lila.
Yeah.
Ready?
Just Lila.
What are you really fucking proud of?
What am I really fucking proud of? I am really fucking proud of the community that Kate and I have built for our business in Austin, and of our mentor network and the people that have helped us build Flourish. I do not think we could have done it alone. I do not think we could have done it somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think there's something really special about the community in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been really reflecting about that a lot recently, personally, especially in the new year. And so I came down here to start this business 2.5 years ago from New York City, having never started a business or anything before. And I'm really proud of what kind of my network and what my network looks like now and how that's supported us in the business.
Ugh, high five.
Yeah. Thanks.
Love that for you. All right, my friends, we are at the end of this plant journey for today. Lila, where can people find you?
Flourish can be found on flourishplant.com. We are also in 200 independent retailers across the country. You can find out where we sell our product on our website. We have a store locator. And starting on March 1st, you can find us in Whole Foods across Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Love that. We'll put all of this information in the show notes. And I appreciate you all for joining me for another week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Dang.
We've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still here. So thank you so much for listening to Above the Fold podcast. For the best of this episode and every episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram and my YouTube channel. And for deeper dives on the secrets to brand success, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Sunday Postcards. All right, my dudes and gals, see you next week.